Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. President Trump has called the Jeffrey Epstein story a hoax and a waste of time. But now his administration is reaching out to the convicted sex offender's closest confidant. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to be the president's personal lawyer, says he has personally contacted lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell. She was convicted in 2021 for her role in recruiting underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein. In a statement, Blanche said, quote, President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Now, despite the Justice Department digging deeper into the Epstein case, the president is still trying to shift focus. He is calling on former President Barack Obama to face criminal prosecution and unveiling a string of new trade agreements. CBS News reporter Erica Brown has more.
We're very close to finishing a trade deal.
Shortly after hosting the president of the Philippines in the Oval Office Tuesday, President Trump announced on social media a new trade deal, including a 19% tariff on goods from that country.
Whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people.
But Trump didn't talk trade for long, pivoting to attack former President Barack Obama, blaming him directly for what he has called for years the Russia hoax.
He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election.
During Trump's first term, a special counsel investigated potential government wrongdoing, finding no evidence intelligence had been falsified in a systematic way, influenced by political concerns or directed by the former president. President Trump brought up former President Obama moments after being asked a question related to the controversy surrounding the investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
The president said it was appropriate that his Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche reached out to the lawyer for Epstein associate and convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell and plans to speak to her in the coming days.
We want maximum transparency. We also understand the other part of that duty is that we have to protect innocent victims.
On Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson said the House won't vote on a resolution calling on the Trump administration to release more of the Epstein files before the August recess. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordis joins us now. President Trump, Nancy, said everyone should move on from Epstein, and yet the Justice Department is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell. So why is the administration digging deeper into the Epstein case?
Well, they're under a lot of pressure, Jerica, from MAGA voters who are very important to this president. They're getting an earful, even from Republican lawmakers who are hearing from their Republican constituents that this is an issue that is of great importance to them. And they felt that the administration was kind of sweeping it under the rug. And so it is no accident that now you've got the Deputy Attorney General announcing that he is going to seek to speak to Ghislaine Maxwell, who is in the midst of serving a 20-year prison sentence. And he says he just wants to know if she's got any information about credible accusations of people victimizing young women in some way, because obviously that is what was at the heart of the case. Certainly was at the heart of her conviction. She was convicted of sex trafficking and basically being the go-between who lined up young women for Jeffrey Epstein and his friends to sleep with. And so, we don't know a lot about when and where this interview will take place, though her lawyer said publicly that she's open to it.
Yeah, and there was so much discussed at that news conference, as you know, Nancy. President Trump is now accusing former President Barack Obama of treason for his alleged actions in the Russia investigation. How is the former president responding?
Well, he doesn't usually respond when President Trump makes accusations like this, but today he did. And he said this accusation in particular was so bizarre and so over the top and so inflammatory, basically accusing Barack Obama of treason, that he had no choice but to speak out. So it was notable that we heard from Obama today. And the fact is that there are numerous investigations, both at DOJ and in Congress, that looked into this question of whether the intelligence had been politicized, as President Trump is now alleging. And all of them, including, as former President Obama pointed out today, one that was led by Marco Rubio, who was a senator at the time and is now President Trump's Secretary of State, that concluded that the intelligence that was used to determine that Russia had interfered in the 2016 election was not politicized and was not influenced by some desire to railroad Donald Trump by the then president of the United States, Barack Obama.
Yeah, and I know at the time at that news briefing, news conference, it was all about what the president had to say. It'll be interesting to see if Marco Rubio comes out and has more to say, perhaps. Guess we'll wait and see. Nancy Cordis, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's turn now to Capitol Hill and bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian. Nicole, House Speaker Mike Johnson will adjourn the House for its August recess tomorrow afternoon in an effort to block any votes related to who we were just speaking of, the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier, he spoke to reporters about the decision. Let's take a listen.
There's no daylight between the White House and the House. You have to allow the legislation to ripen, and you also have to allow the administration the space to do what it is doing. They're in the process of that. There's no purpose for Congress to push an administration to do something that they're already doing. And so this is for political games.
Well, he says it's for political gains. Talk to us, Nicole, about, the concerns that this is sending members back to their home districts, that things could actually get worse.
Yeah, well, let's be clear that Speaker Mike Johnson, depending on who you talk to, yes, some feel that he is blocking this vote, but, he argues that he is not for a variety of reasons. I think we have to back up a step and look at what happened yesterday in the Rules Committee, which basically guides the process for any major piece of legislation. So obviously the House had other things it was planning to vote on this week, but because there has been this disagreement about whether or not the House should hold a vote on calling for the release of the Epstein files, the Rules Committee was not able to reach a resolution on that. In fact, Democrats on the panel have tried several times to force a vote on this issue, but in the case of last night, they were shot down and the Rules Committee dismissed without holding a vote on moving forward with any pieces of legislation. And so because of that, that is why no further legislation can move forward on the House floor. So because of that, yes, you have some blaming the Speaker for that or blaming some Republicans for that. But as you heard the Speaker try to explain there, he thinks Democrats are playing politics with this issue. Also, when he says you have to let the legislation ripen, what he is referring to is there is a bipartisan resolution by Tom Massey and Ro Khanna, a Republican from Kentucky, a Democrat from California. They hope to kind of circumvent the process by holding a vote on this without kind of going through the regular process using what's called a discharge petition. Well, there's a waiting period before a measure like that can be brought up. So that's why the Speaker is saying, look, we need to give this some time. The administration is already working on this. And because of this impasse, that's why the House is going home.
I want to turn now to the appropriations bill. The Senate is expected to hold a procedural vote tonight to kick off that process. Congress has until September 30th to pass a bill to fund the government and avoid a shutdown. What are the current plans for funding, for the funding package?
Yeah, well, every time we see these government funding fights, obviously the end of the fiscal year is the end of September, and so you have to fund the government and have a bill to do that. Well, Republicans and Democrats would like to do that through a process called regular order, where they vote on these appropriations bills instead of kind of a Band-Aid approach and just approving temporary funding, right? So we are seeing that process of regular order with the Senate working on these appropriation bills. Yes, they're holding a vote on one today. However, again, what is telling about this, or what could be telling, is that if a measure like this has enough votes, Does it mean we'll see bipartisan support for the appropriations process as it moves forward? There's a big trust issue here on Capitol Hill, particularly after Congress passed that rescissions package, cutting $9.4 billion in funding to global aid, public media. And so Democrats are hesitant to work with Republicans on these spending bills going forward because they worry, well, if we approve all this funding, is the White House just going to claw it back later? So we'll see how this process moves forward. But again, it could come down to the wire next month when Congress must vote on something to fund the government. Jerika.
All right, Nicole Killian, thank you so much.